So the first thing is, what is intelligent design theory? Intelligent design theory is the idea that there are certain features of biological organisms and the universe from which we can infer intelligent design. Now, that's all the theory says. It doesn't say anything about universal common ancestry, because you have intelligent design proponents who accept universal common ancestry, like Michael Behe, and you have others like Paul Nelson who don't accept it. So
Right.
it doesn't make a claim about genealogy. It doesn't say anything about phylogenetic reconstruction. That it's neutral. It also doesn't say there is a God. This is what's important. It's often described as a religious theory. It is not. All it's simply saying is there are certain features from which we can infer design. So there are a few components which I think are worth discussing. The first component is inference to the best explanation, which is something used historically. Maya, on your channel, I'm sure he went into some detail about this. There is the concept of irreducible complexity and specified complexity. So these three components together make up intelligent design theory. Intelligent design can actually be subscribed to even if you don't believe in God, even if you're agnostic. There's one intelligent design proponent, David Belinsky, agnostic background. There's also another one whose name I've forgotten, Michael something. But there's quite a few of them. You can find them on Evolution News. And what you find is you get people who are Jewish, Muslim, Christian, agnostic. Someone like Nagel, outright atheist, but open to the idea of intelligent design.
True.
So intelligent design is a minimalistic idea. Now, the pushback against it is it's not science, and there's no scientific evidence for it. And it not being science, we covered before, it's a circular argument because they deny it through methodological naturalism, and then they say that you can't do it. But let's look into some of these concepts. So inference to the best explanation, irreducible complexity, and specified complexity. Yeah. Okay.
No, sorry. This is the most recent book by Stephen Meyer, of course, Return of the God Hypothesis. 3 scientific discoveries that reveal the mind behind the universe. So he is arguably the most public, visible face of intelligent design in the United States. And there's a couple of Nobel Prize winners on the back who seem to like it. But anyway, sorry, interrupt.
And he's been on this channel, and you can perhaps put the link for people to watch. So I was very happy to see him on here. So Myers uses the argument from inference to the he uses inference to the best explanation to infer design. Now, inference to the best explanation has always been used throughout history. Now, what's important about inference to the best explanation is that the inference to the best explanation doesn't need an explanation. So if somebody was to look at, say, the central argument of the God delusion, one of the premises says that to postulate a designer is problematic because we don't know where the designer comes from. So it's an infinite regress, therefore you can't infer design. Now, inference to the best explanation doesn't work like that. If there is a phenomenon we want to describe and there's a cause we want to infer, that cause could be whatever it is, cause X. If cause X can describe this phenomena in a way that's comprehensive, in a way that's simple, in a way that fits certain scientific criteria, then that cause X doesn't need an explanation. This is very important. What Richard Dawkins basically says is it does, but that's not the way inference to the best explanation works. Now, what's interesting is, even though, like I said before, intelligent design is not allowed, right? From a scientific perspective, what we find is that intelligence is being referred to when it suits the Darwinists, right? So Francis Crick, he won the Nobel Prize for the structure for discovering the structure of DNA, and he had alongside Watson, and he also had the sequence hypothesis, which was confirmed a decade later. So a fantastic scientist. Now, at the time of Darwin, the idea was that the cells are extremely simple, like jello. There's hardly anything there, and this type of thing. What Francis Crick and James Watson discovered is the cell is incredibly complex. It's like London at its busiest time, with trains and trams and buses and people and buildings and construction. So Francis Crick could not explain how the origin of life could be if the cells are so complex, why are they so complex? It couldn't be explained through this very simplistic understanding that spontaneous generation and the abiogenesis sort of ideas that were prevalent. So he inferred that they could have been an advanced civilization that seeded life on Earth, and this he, somewhere in this office is the book Life Itself.
So that's intelligent design, because
that's intelligent design. That's
agents who actually designed it. You can't use the G word, God, because we can't say that word, because hey, we're scientists. But allow aliens to do it. That's okay. It seems to be a kind of random preference for one rather than the other. But hey, that's what he did.
Yeah, but they have a justification, which I'll go into next. They have a rebuttal, right? So when Richard Dawkins was being asked about this, right, there's this very popular documentary called No Intelligence Allowed, and he's being asked about the origin of life, and he said, well, perhaps life was seeded on Earth through an advanced civilization which sent down life on Earth. And then he was pushed, well, where did that life come from? And he says, well, that life must have evolved via some sort of Darwinian mechanism. Now the problem here is he's falling into the same thing that he criticized others for in his book, which is he's referring to something else. So he's saying, okay, so aliens made human beings, right? They seeded life on Earth. So those aliens, how did they evolve? How did they come about? They came about via a Darwinian process. But remember, a Darwinian process doesn't explain the origin of life, only the development of life, right? It only see, this is a distinction which needs to be made. I mean, even the origin of species is not about the origin of species. The origin of species is about the development of species.
There's a whole idea. Sorry, just stop there. This whole language of the origin of species, you're saying, is misleading, because it's not the origin, the source. It is the ongoing struggle for life, survival of the fittest, etc. So it's a misnomer, actually, isn't it? It's a very interesting insight.
Yeah. And Darwin was happy to understand these are two different questions, right? Abiogenesis, evolution are two different things, right? Chemical evolution and biological evolution are different. Chemical evolution has to take place before you get biological evolution. You don't get rocks turning into, tadpoles or whatever, right? You don't get inorganic to organic. You're going to have to explain how that process came about. So what's interesting is when Richard Dawkins is referring to these aliens, those aliens we can explain their development of life using a Darwinian mechanism, fair enough. But then where did the aliens originate from? Well, they must have come through another civilization B. So it's a infinite regress. Now, this idea of directed panspermia, which is the official name of this alien theory, right? This idea is accepted as science, yet, like you just referred to a minute ago, intelligent design, in terms of not referring to something material like aliens, is not. So why the double standards? Now, what a Darwinist would say is the following. A Darwinist would say, well, the aliens or the advanced civilization are material postulates. They are material, but an intelligent designer may be immaterial. So they would say it fits within methodological naturalism to refer to alien designers, but it doesn't fit with methodological naturalism to refer to an immaterial creator.